Good morning, everybody. This is Alex with Muddy Waters. I hope everybody has had a wonderful start to the weekend. Hello, Carolyn. So, the topic of this video is basically dealing with DNA and missing children. And I have discussed with Dennis and I've discussed with Tammy, and I'm not sure if I've discussed this with Dan or not in all of our conversations when we have group uh, calls, but so many children are abducted or stolen at birth or something like that. How many statistics is there? What could the statistic numbers be on children who are stolen off a playground, abducted, or at a shopping mall, etc. So I was thinking, what is the possible situation that could happen with basically a child who grows up at a very, through their, well, I'm trying to think the correct word to say. Let's just basically say they get into their teenage years and they start questioning things. They're not sure of their past, they don't have many relatives or something like that, where they actually start thinking, well, who am I? Something like that. So, what would happen if, a child was to get on a site like Ancestry.com and do the DNA test and, finds out that sometime later, that he's linked to somebody else, that there's some way that when he did, he or she did this DNA test, that they found out that they are a missing child because of the parent's name or something like that. So, you know, could that happen? What if a mother or father does the DNA stuff, and on Ancestry.com, and they get linked up to this person, and they're like, oh my gosh, this person did the same thing. And look, Ancestry.com has linked us together. So I don't know, if anybody in our audience here has done anything on Ancestry.com. I have. I've done quite a bit. When I had COVID a couple of years ago, I was pretty sick. I almost died from COVID personally. Um, but when I came out of the hospital, I was on an oxygen machine when I came home. So I basically sat in bed every day on an oxygen machine. And I ended up getting into Ancestry.com and working on my heritage. And it's crazy. I worked on it and worked on it. And I believe on my father's side that I made it all the way back to, I think, 1340 in England on my father's side on our last name. I made it that far back. But while I was doing it, I found out that my great 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 grandma on the 11th power, she was one of the witches that was supposedly a witch in the Salem witch trials. Yes. And there's a book about her. So it's very crazy what you will find out when, if you do all this stuff. But basically, is there a chance that if you were to do this DNA type stuff, possibly you could find out that, you know, you're linked to somebody else, and then you're like, oh my word, this is showing that I'm biologically linked to this person, and these people have a missing child. So I know it sounds kind of strange, um, but you know, what is the possibility of this? Is there a possibility that if, you know, the child was trying to find out who they really were because things weren't making sense, or, you know, this situation happened, but DNA could put them together? So, um, you know, it's just crazy. It's just a crazy thought that I thought of, you know, and could it work? Um, so I've talked with Dennis, and we have a case where we know that the parents have done DNA on a missing child. Um, and I want to talk with Dennis to see if it's possible if this mother and father has ever done the Ancestry.com, or I think it's me and you, or me. Let's look. Let's look here. Let's do DNA test. Let's look. Let's see what this comes up with. So there's Ancestry.com. There's Home Paternity. 23andMe. Okay, 23andMe is the other one that I've heard people talk about. So, is it possible that this particular case, I want to talk with Dennis to see if by chance they would be willing to do this if they have not, but just do this. Let's do the DNA test. Um, if they have not and they would like to do this, Muddy Waters would pay for it out of our pocket. And let's get them in the system if they would do this. And let's see if by chance they could be linked to somebody they do not know about. Um, this particular couple has a missing child. Um, I believe he was only 4 years old when he went missing. Um, there is a possible theory that he could have been abducted, that somebody on a rail car on the railroad possibly could have grabbed him. That is not the number one theory, you know, in this case, but um, it's something that has been brought up in the past. And like I said, Dennis and I had talked about this. So um, we are going to try to reach out to them when we have contact with them again. And we have talked with the mother um, a few times. Dennis has. I've talked to her, you know, through like Messenger once or twice. Um, actually, through eBay, believe it or not. Um, but I want to see if they would do this. I'm also going to look into some other cases where there's a young child that, you know, possibly was abducted, stolen, you know, one of those situations versus a child who just, not to say it crudely, but just walked out the door and disappeared. Um, but I want to look up some of those cases and work with, you know, our group, Dennis, Dan, you know, Tammy, you know, everybody's in the group, and narrow down some cases and reach out to those and see if we can go somewhere with that. So, Tamara says, local sheriff told me that they have trail cams in many places. Is there a way to see where they have them? If near where someone went missing, they could provide footage. Um, this particular case happened in the 70s. This young boy, he's been gone for so long. Um, and believe it or not, we are going to go and do some ground searches in this area, um, where this boy possibly um, went into the river at. But there was a possible sighting of this boy in another location. And if you have not figured it out, I am talking about Jeremy Coots, who went missing out of Atchison, Kansas. We just talked about Jeremy um, last week when I talked about doing the Apple AirTag test experiment, where we're going to get some floating devices because um, there's three theories that go around Jeremy's case, and one is the end result is that Jeremy unfortunately walked to the river and fell in, somehow got in the river and unfortunately drowned, and that's how he unfortunately was lost. Um, his body was never found, no clothing, anything. But there was a theory that he had to cross the railroad tracks. There could have been a train. What if possible somebody snatched him and grabbed him because they just saw a small child? And then there was also a theory or rumor that somebody saw Jeremy walking by their pond that day that he went missing. So basically, yes, I would like to see if we can talk to Jeremy's mother. We know she's gave DNA samples to the KBI, local law enforcement, etc. But I would like to see if she would be willing to do an Ancestry.com DNA test, or another one, and just put it out there just to see if they would ever get a hit. Because if some strange reason saying, if you never know. And some of the other cases, the same situation. So, so this website here is, I think it's childfindofamerica.org. So it says facts and stats on missing children. So right here it says, it is estimated that 2,300 children are missing every day in the United States. Children can become missing for many reasons. The National Incident Studies of Missing, Abducted, Runaway, and Thrown Away Children, NISMART program, identifies 5 categories of episodes that can cause children to become missing. Benign reasons, i.e. misunderstandings, ran away, thrown away, lost, stranded, or injured, family abduction, stranger abduction. So I guess, this is, where I'm kind of thinking where these situations could lead into, basically what could happen. What if this is a what if scenario type situation. Family parental abductions, an estimated 203,900 children were victims of family abduction in 1999. Family abduction occurs when a family member takes or keeps a child in violation of custodial parents' guardians' legitimate rights. Family parental abduction stats. 78% of abductors are the non-custodial parent. 35% of children were between the ages of 6 and 11. 24% of the abductions lasted between 1 week and 1 month. 82% of abductors intended to affect custodial parental. 21% are other relatives. 42% of children were living with a single parent. 15% were living with another relative, foster parent. 66% were taken by a male relative. So let's go down here to this, because this is where this, to me, would really go into this whole scenario if DNA testing could be done and how it could work one way or another if a child was to basically question their past. Non-family abductions and stereotypical kidnappings. An estimated 58,200 children were victims of non-family abduction in 1999. Non-family abductions occur when someone who is not a relative abducts and detains a child without lawful authority or parental permission with the intentions to keep the child permanently. In 1999, there were also 115 stereotypical kidnappings. A stereotypical kidnapping occurs when a stranger or slight acquaintance transports a child 50 miles or more from home and either kills the child, holds the child's ransom, or intends to keep the child permanently. Non-family abduction and stereotypical kidnapping stats. 81% were 12 years or older in non-family cases. 58% were 12 years or older in a stereotypical kidnapping. In 40% of the stereotypical kidnappings, the child was killed. In another 4%, the child was not recovered. 86 of the perpetrators are male. The abducted children are predominantly female. Nearly half of all victims were sexually assaulted. So this right here, I honestly thought the stats, which this is from 1999 on this website. Um, you know, I was, in my mind, I'm thinking children that were abducted like at birth, stolen from a hospital setting. Um, you know, young children, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old that were stolen from playgrounds or in a shopping mall or those type of situations, picked up at school, at a bus stop, something like that. But young children who, basically, not to say that they are more gullible, but where someone could mentally take advantage of them and talk them into something. um, so you know um, is it crazy to think this? Is it crazy to think that somehow, you know, Ancestry.com or one of these websites, you could do this possibly? Um, and, it would take, both ways, but, a lot of people know about Ancestry.com and, the 23andMe website. So, like I said, we are going to look at some cases where this happened and possibly try to follow up with the parents, present this scenario to them, see if they have done this. If they have not, would they be willing to let us pay for this and see what could happen? Because when I'm not familiar with the 23andMe, but I know on Ancestry.com, if you take the DNA test, it supposedly will link you to anybody and everybody in your family genealogy that has already done it in any way, shape, or form. So, um, it's just a situation where we would like to try this and see if it works. Um, I don't truly know if it would or would not. It's just literally a chance and a to see what happens. Um, so that is it for this video. Um, as always, please like, share, subscribe. Um, I have some more videos coming up. I've been super busy the last few days, and I've had to reschedule and reschedule and reschedule, and um, yeah, I've just been super busy. So I apologize to everybody. Um, so, thank you for watching the video today on this particular issue that I wanted to talk about and discuss. And if you could please, our flyers that we post, please share them. You know, it will benefit, the family, it benefits us, just trying to help and get the word out. So, thank you, everybody. Hope to see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.